think this is part 2 of the Sp1200 video. Alright guys, so I know you all want to be banging out some dusty drum loops on either Sp1200 or Mpc. Remember, two machines, they shaped hip hop. One became a myth. This is the story of the Sp1200 and why it's never going out of style. And even though Mpc might be a contender, it might just be losing a little bit of the soul. This is part 2. So I'm gonna just go a little bit deeper. So in part 1, we talked about the Sp1200 versus the Mpc and how some of the new Mpcs kind of are losing its soul. So what's good, y'all? Today we're talking about vintage samplers and not just nostalgia, but legacy. Specifically, we're talking about the MU to Sp1200 and how it continues to define underground production decades later. And while the Mpc, though it is very legendary, it might be slipping into a realm of utility over identity. This is part 2. So I talked about this before, but we're gonna get even deeper in it. So one thing about that Sp1200, it used limitation as inspiration. So yeah, you might have some limiting things that happens with that Sp1200, but it will inspire your mind to just go to a whole different level, a whole different planet. So let's talk about what made the Sp1200 special. Once again, it was released in 1987. This big, huge box is from that raw 80s hip hop. It's that 12-bit resolution, that 26.4 sample rate, and just 2.5 seconds of sampling time per pad. That's all you got. So where most saw limitation, and it wasn't even made for hip hop producers at first. Real producers, they saw a challenge. They saw how they can get more out of less, how they had to pitch down the samples, how to squeeze drum chops and resample stuff so that they can get that iconic lo-fi crunch, that dusty, gritty texture that, guess what, no plugin ever has fully recreated, and it's never going to be recreated. All of that sound that you get from the Pete Rocks, the Mad Libs, the Lord Finesse, the Beat Miners, that is rare. That's coming out of that SP. Remember, producers like Pete Rock, he used that SP's limitation to innovate, looping by ear, chopping without waveforms. He didn't need to see it. He trusts his instincts instead of screens. It was muscle memory, not mouse clicks. All right, so the Mpc's technological leap and decline. So the Mpc 60 to that 2000 XL, to the Live, to the Mpc 1, the GUI is becoming more and more digital over time. That 2000 XL got that same software it had in the 90s. Now enter the Mpc. It started as the MIDI production center. It dropped in 1988, and it had Roger Lynn magical touch all over it. It brought more memory, more sequencing, more power, tighter MIDI integration, and it became a centerpiece of all hip hop in the 90s and early 2000s. You was not a producer unless you had an Mpc. That Mpc 60, that 3000, that 2000 XL, the 2000, they were workhorses. They were backbones behind that boom bap sound, that dirty South sound. Everybody from Jay Dilla to DJ Premier to Manny Fresh, they use Mpcs. So that legacy, it's untouchable. We're not saying the legacy isn't there. But as Akai leaned into the digital integration, adding touch screens, USB, SSD drives, and even standalone DAW, the Mpc stopped being a character in the beat. It became a tool. Efficient? Very. Absolutely. Iconic? Not anymore. It became about paint job. One thing that we're dealing with is analog soul versus digital cleanness. We got our Sp1200. Can't see the waveform. MPC Lives. You can see all the waveforms. And they even have an Sp1200 mode. But one is gritty and jagged, and the other one is smooth and clinical. Okay. So there's something to be said for imperfection. The Sp1200s, the converters, the analog filters, even its hum, everyone has a different energy. It gave every beat a raw fingerprint. The MPC, it's gotten cleaner over time, and maybe even too clean. And when your beats sound like presets, they sound like everybody else, where's the personality? Remember, that's why even in 2025, producers are chasing that SP sound. If they weren't, why would there be so many clones? The Sp1200. Then there's ones on the iPads. There's plugins, tape simulations, resampling chains. But one thing, it's just not quite the same like the Sp1200. Also remember the cultural weight and collector status. These things are expensive. I'm seeing SPs for $12,000, $15,000. So just remember, let's talk culture. This Sp1200, it isn't just a sampler, it's a symbol of the time we made beats when they were made on extinct equipment. When every sample that you chosen had to be chosen with care. It had to be chopped by hand, filtered for a dope vintage feel, and it wasn't even vintage back then. That was just, it was what it was. And today, it's a collector's item. The original Sp1200s, like I said, they could sell from $8,000 to over $15,000. And even the reissues, they're going fast. They're not on the Rossum website. Why? Because it represents a mind state, not just a machine. And seeing some of the stuff like what Lord Finesse is doing, he's bringing them back out and he's talking about it. It's amazing. It's amazing to hear producers talking about him, to hear producers excited about an Sp1200, something that came out almost 40 years ago. Remember, guys, it's about a ritual. It's about slapping in that floppy disk, even though we ain't using floppies no more. Recording that horn line that has speed. Making something grimy on purpose. You don't just use the Sp1200, you submit to it. This is real. There's times when I'm like, damn, am I ready to get on this Sp1200? All right, so let's talk about some of the modern producers who still use the SP. All right, so they say Madlib still uses it, even though I know he uses the iPad. Kanye West early stuff leaned towards that SP feel. We don't know if he used it. DBIC, he definitely used the SP12. Knowledge got the sound of SP, but nah. Some of the new cats, they're buying these busted units, they're restoring them, they're trying to chase that raw energy. Me, I'm using the Sp1200 too. The MPC is still widely used. It's actually widely marketed. Akai is giving it to everybody. It's in live setups, hybrid studios, but it's not defining the sound. And that's one thing EA Ski is putting us on about sound. And it's adapting to weird workflows. I did not like the 3.0. It's too much. Remember that Sp1200, that operating system has not changed. That MPC, it changed with the times. The Sp1200 is frozen time. It's a relic, but it can still move crowds. And it's not about speed, and it's not about convenience. It's about soul, and it's about that sound that you can get. So guys, no shade to the MPC. Remember, it helped build this culture, but in the battle for timelessness, the Sp1200, it doesn't evolve because it doesn't have to. It's a Mew. It's not a Mewtwo, it's just a Mew. It is what it is. It's the perfect Pokemon. So if you feeling that raw aesthetic, I need you to hit a like. I need you to drop a comment with your favorite Sp1200 beat and then your favorite Sp1200 producer. And I need you to subscribe for more deep dives into classic gear and in hip hop history. Remember, I'm Hypebeast's dad. And when I'm not making beats on my Sp1200 or just vibing out with the fam, I'm out here creating content for y'all. So I need y'all to definitely like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff, and let's really create a conversation about timelessness, music, like music that can go for forever. All right? Peace.